Investing and understanding your finances and planning for the future is so important for maintaining a clear understanding of how to enjoy your present lifestyle and to give comfort to your future self, especially when you decide to retire and make sure you have enough money for older age. A healthy understanding of your finances and investing can bring so much calm and reduce stress. If you discipline yourself properly, you can certainly bring sustainable wealth for yourself and for your future. Today on Spearlift, we will speak with an expert who can help navigate the waters of this topic. But before we get started, please make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video to help educate more people on this important topic and to support and grow our channel. In this episode of Spearlift, I have the pleasure to speak with Mark Zoril. As the founder of PlanVision, Mark has almost 25 years of direct client work experience in the financial services industry. He started his career helping smaller companies establish employer-based retirement plans. However, his efforts over the years evolved to primarily helping individuals plan and prepare for their financial futures. I will also include all of Mark's information in the video description. Mark, welcome to Spearlift.
Thanks, Devin. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. And I'm so excited to speak to you about this topic today, as it's kind of a precarious time talking about finances and investing as we're filming this particular episode in 2020, and so many people have been adversely affected by the pandemic. But nevertheless, very important topic. And I want to start off, Mark, just please give our viewers a bit more extensive background about your work, what you do, and just from your point of view, give our viewers your take on the importance of actually preparing for your financial future, especially starting at a younger age.
Sure. Yes, I've been in the financial services industry for, 25, 26 years now. And I formed PlanVision in 2012 because I just wanted to work with people in a different capacity than in a conventional distribution network where advisors work in an organization. And then also I was just uncomfortable with how basically people get paid, make a living. I thought there were too many conflicts of interest, so formed PlanVision. And so what we do now is we have I would describe it as a high volume financial planning practice. We think financial planning and investment guidance is intentionally made to be overly complicated by the financial services industry. And also investing. We think it's quite a bit easier than people might perceive. And also a part of the model that I wanted to pursue was using technology like these kind of video conferencing and a lot of the technology support systems to allow a business to run efficiently in this capacity. So basically what I do is I provide financial guidance to many Americans, but also a large expat, what we would call expat clients all over the world. These are people that are not necessarily just Americans, but people of all different nationalities in over 100 countries. We help them understand what they can invest in and how they can put a plan together. Because a lot of those themes are the same from person to person, regardless of where they happen to be from. So that is what PlanVision does. That's how we provide guidance and assistance to people. And we think we're part of an industry that, like many industries, is going through some changes in how those kinds of services are priced and how they're delivered to people. As far as your question about the importance of planning or investing, or I guess the combination of the two at a younger age, I guess I would maybe try to identify a few benefits that come along with that. And you did make this, the way you described it, I thought was kind of a good way to describe it, in the sense that you are providing comfort to your future your future self.
Sure.
One of the important benefits of becoming more educated about your finances and how to invest and having a plan for your future, one of the benefits of doing this at a younger age is, without regard necessarily to how your finances work out for you in your 40s, 45, 50, 55, meaning if you lose work or you make a bad investment, to the extent that you become better educated and better aware at a younger age, it does take off a lot of stress later in life. A lot of the stress that can come along with feeling like you're not making progress financially, that's one thing. But another factor is when you just feel ignorant about what you're doing. And that can be frustrating in many different ways, and like all different aspects of our personal and professional lives. So if you, as a younger person, even, somebody it's never too old to learn this stuff, but taking ownership of your finances at a younger age will certainly reduce stress. Another benefit, and I suppose this might go in the category of it goes without saying, I guess, if you become a better planner, have good understanding of the importance of saving at a young age, you'll just accumulate more assets. And that is without regard to whether or not you have a lot of money, however we're defining a lot of money, people making well in excess of six figures, to people that make much more modest incomes. If they live within their means and they can start saving on a regular, consistent, methodical basis at a young age, they're simply going to have more money in their late 40s, early to mid 50s, on into their 60s. And that's going to take some pressure off, take some stress off, and also might allow them more flexibility later in life as well. So those are a couple of benefits of starting at a younger age. And I suppose the final one I would mention, and again, this is overlap with the idea of taking, of having less stress, because you have more ownership of understanding how to plan and invest for your future, is getting involved in this at a younger age just helps you become more educated about the financial services industry and how, I guess if I'm going to be really cynical, how they can take advantage of people, or just understanding how the financial services industry operates, so you can become a good consumer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really good insight. And, what I find a little mind-boggling, Mark, and I don't know if you can adhere to this or speak to it, these sort of topics are not taught in a lot of schools, and they're not taught, if I think middle school, high school, for example, especially high school, I think it would be really pertinent. It would make a world difference, because I think this is kind of a habitual thing as well. It's kind of a learned thing. If you have good role models in your life at a young age, and you learn how the importance of money and what investment means, that can make a world of difference throughout your whole life. But it's just not taught. It's not given a lot of credence, unfortunately. And obviously there's a lot of videos and information disseminated all over the internet where you could learn it on your own volition, but you would have to do that. I think it takes a lot of natural instinct and will to want to do it. Which is, it should happen. But, I think the thing is, I think we unfortunately learn too much later in life the importance of having to have had invested when we were younger, So is there a way you think in general that this could start as part of the educational process at a younger age in a way? Curiosity?
Certainly. Well, you're correct in the sense that I'm not aware of any sort of curriculum in conventional education where this is taught. Now, many people do actually learn it in their family. Most Americans, and I think this may be the case in other cultures as well, are very funny about money within their own families, even amongst their, from parents down to children. And then certainly with their siblings and their parents, it's a little bit taboo, right, in many families to talk, oh, you make this much or you don't make this much, that we draw conclusions and judgments about people based upon their earnings potential. So money's a little bit off limits in a lot of families. As far as, you're right, I should maybe clarify. I think there are some, maybe in high school, there might be some teaching of investing classes, but just financial planning and understanding finance and how to put together a plan and how to understand investment. That's not a normal, I don't believe it's part of many curriculums in high school or college. You're right. There are a lot of resources that are available. A lot of books, my gosh, a number of books have been written on personal finance, but it is come down to many times the initiative of an individual to want to get more involved and to begin to seek out this kind of information. One of the benefits certainly of the web is the ability for people to more easily access, you're right, videos or online books, or at least know where to go shopping for books that will provide background for that. How does this, and certainly parents can play a role too in at least putting their kids in the right direction. If your question to me is how do we actually make it a bigger part of I'm not sure that I can give an answer on how this becomes more ingrained in how we raise people. I suppose this kind of, it's really a question of consumerism. Are you a good consumer of financial products? And part of that is being educated. And there are other areas too. It's kind of interesting. I've always thought to myself that in addition to, saying something like we should teach our kids this, I suppose that's debatable upon who you talk to, but should we teach our kids how to shop for healthcare? I mean, I don't even know if I can, how do I go? Do I price out what the cost of an outpatient clinic? That's just it's a foreign concept to everyone. So yeah, it probably fits in the category where we could do that, but it's likely not going to be happening. At least that's my take on it. So yeah, it's up to the individual to get on that. Now I can provide some ideas on things that I think are important for people to begin to learn about.
Sure. I mean, and we'll get to that particular notion in a second. And thinking about what you just said and the question I posed to you, I think in a certain way, and with the times we live in and the way technology develops and the accessibility and information overload as well, as getting information so direct and marketable to a sense where it's engaging and also fun. When I think of Dave Ramsey, for example, when I navigate on his sites and things like that, I'm not saying he's the particular best example of this, but what the user ability and way of educating yourself about money seems very approachable, and it seems to be to, all types of people. So I think that kind of way of approaching it, making it kind of fun and accessible and entertaining in a way is engaging, because I don't think traditionally a lot of people are so engaged with learning about, how to handle money. So it's, like you said, in a way, sort of taboo and things like that in certain circumstances. Can you elaborate a bit more, Mark, about your model and how the way you approach this whole subject is different than how, let's say, traditionally or and instill in operation some financial companies approach their clients about investing? Can you speak more?
Well, I'll talk about the investing side, and I would make a distinction between what is investing versus planning. So if you are 22, 28, 35, 40, whatever age you are, and you want to invest and you have uncertainty about that, we would try to provide some guidance or recommendations on what we think would make sense based upon your situation. So our viewpoint on investing in trying to explain this to somebody is that you would establish kind of what their goal is. And really, frankly, for most people, when we're talking about investing, it's a long-term, they're usually the two primary things they would save for would be their own retirement or financial independence or whatever they want to call it. And then maybe their children's education. Now, beyond that, there are some other things. They may want to get a home or something like that. But if we're talking about long-term investing, that's typically the two primary goals that they would have. So we would try to provide some explanation in a fairly condensed period of time on what the stock market is, which is we use generally conventional investments. We consider the stock market to be the most mainstream method people would invest. How you access the stock market historically, what it's performed, understanding the volatility of it. So that is a part of our job, to provide some explanation on what that is to our clients. Our clients will come to us, or people will come to us with a wide range of experience. Some might not know anything. Some are actually quite sophisticated. They need us to help finish the job. So when it comes to investing, it would be providing some explanation of what an investment is, how it performs, and what their expectations would be. And so one of the most important things that I've come to realize over the years, and this again probably applies to basically everything, is that our clients that are looking for guidance and advice, that their expectations match what we can do or what we purport to do. Otherwise, that's going to be a dissatisfactory relationship. So we would want to provide some explanation of what they can expect from their investments over a period of time. Now, our viewpoint, now it's easy for us to say this at PlanVision, is that this is really simple, right? Mm-hmm. But that's just not this is what we do, so it's simple to us. But again, we think the financial services industry grossly overcomplicates the whole thing. And so another part of our model, if this is what you're asking about, when our clients engage us, when we're trying to provide advisement to them, and I say that it's simple, what I'm also implying is it doesn't take us that much time to provide this explanation and this guidance. Therefore, the way that we charge, and this is really an important feature for those that want to learn more about the financial services industry, we think it's important that they understand when you're looking to make an investment that you understand whomever it is that you're working with, how do they get paid? What is their compensation model? We get paid a small flat fee when people hire our services, $150 for the first year, and then $8 a month if they just renew with us going forward. And we actually think that's a very profitable model as our business grows and as we pursue volume. But understanding how the financial services company or an advisor is compensated is really it's very valuable to informing you about how there may be conflicts of interest between what you want to accomplish with your investments and what the advisor wants to provide you in their products and services. So back to our model, and what we're trying, what we do is provide that education or guidance. So for example, the 29-year-old wants to open up an account. We would recommend low-cost index funds, and they can open up an account depending upon where they live in the world with a broker or a company like Vanguard or Fidelity here in the States. That process just doesn't take that long. But in our model, we don't want to get compensated based upon the product they use or what we refer them to. We just want to have a small flat fee. Therefore, it doesn't matter ultimately to us what they do. It doesn't affect our compensation. So as far as our model goes, I would certainly characterize it as saying we work fast with our clients with the intention of trying to help them understand how simple this thing really is. And so that's how our model works, is doing high volume. And that even sounds somewhat impersonal. We don't believe it is, but that may be how it comes across. But again, our viewpoint is that the financial services industry intentionally overcomplicates investing and even planning to justify higher fees.
Now that's really interesting, Mark, because the way I've come to understand how traditionally the financial industry investing firms operate is this 1% assets under management fee. And the older you get, and let's say, and I don't want to get too technical because I know these things personally, and maybe not all our viewers do, but let's say you get into a retirement age. Let's just say you're around, 66 or so.
Sure.
You're going to retire. And you are with a firm that charges 1% fees, or sometimes more. There's some that charge 2%. Yeah. So it's quite substantial. So if you're withdrawing a certain amount each and every year and you don't have cash on the side, you're just taking it off the top of your portfolio, right? Or the gains, at least. You're having to take into mind, depending on the type of account you have, the fees or taxes, obviously, long-term capital gains, and you're having to take into account the 1%, between 1 and 2%, depends on the firm, of AUM, assets under management. So that can grossly eat into how much you really are taking out. I'm not talking about Social Security, so let's put that aside. We're just talking about the investing money. So that can grossly eat into, your savings. So I think what's interesting about your model is that it seems to me that you charge more of a flat fee rather than, like that traditional model, the AUM between 1 and 2%. When actually, I think for investing, you don't have, like you said, you don't have to overcomplicate this. This is a set and forget thing, and there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be rolling waves and tides and hurricanes. Like this year, one of the worst years since 2008, 2009. So there should be a much more set and forget thing, and that's why I think even companies like, let's say, Betterment or Robinhood or companies like that, who do charge let's a AUM fee, but it's less than 1% usually, from what I've seen and what I know. So going back to this, the up and coming, I don't know the generation name because there's always a Z and a Y and a K, and I don't know, but like I have family members who are within the age bracket of the 15, 24-year-olds, the younger, and they have this sort of mentality, the sort of mindset of, minimalism and less consumerism in general, right? Consuming things. My advice and they want to learn about money, but they don't want to have to manage it either. So I think these set and forget things and the set and forget mentality and let it grow is equally important. So what I told to them personally, and kind of in line with what you're saying in a certain way, it's like open a Roth and go through a certain company, and you don't have to, and check once a year or so if you want, and forget about it. I mean, does that kind of fall in line with your idea and how you do things?
Yes, it does. The premise of our business, and we're not certainly unique in this way, there's many proponents of this. It all started with John Bogle and Vanguard back in the mid-'70s when he rolled out the first index fund, which is now quite a worldwide phenomenon, is that all you really need to do is to own the markets represented by what's called an index fund or an index ETF. They're very low cost. And by doing this, you will participate in the growth of the markets. And that's the kind of set and forget or couch potato portfolio. There's different expressions that will describe this kind of investing. The point of it, though, is that it's not complicated. It's relatively simple, actually very simple to do. In fact, companies like Vanguard, Schwab, Fidelity all have excellent low-cost target date funds that people can use. That's why I have all my money in a Vanguard 2045 target date fund. It's an all-in-one fund. It will slowly get more conservative to the point at which I need the funds.
Can you explain that a little bit, Mark? I'm sorry to interrupt you, just for our viewers to know what is that whole concept and idea of investing in a target date fund, and how does it work?
So target date funds, I think Vanguard's target date funds are the world's largest investments. They're used in a lot of different employer-based plans, and I would recommend them really for anybody, for the most part, that has access to those funds, unless they're, people that wouldn't be able to access those, expats or something. A target date fund is a fund where the investments are considered to be invested appropriately based upon your retirement date. Your retirement date is your target date. So if you're 30 and we're using 65 or 67 as the target retirement date, that would be 35 years from now. And so your target date is 2055. So you would invest in the Vanguard target retirement date 2055. That's a choice. Now that fund is at this point about 90% stocks, 10% bonds. It will stay 90% stock, 10% bonds for probably 12 to 15 years. Then it will begin to slowly get more conservative as you age from 45 to 65. So the 90% stocks, 10% bonds, which is classically an aggressive portfolio, by the time you get to your target date, it will be something more like 50-50, 50% stocks, 50% bonds. Now, when you use a target date fund, it doesn't mean you have to retire then or you get to retire then. Your money's not locked up in these funds. It's just a very simple, hands-off, appropriate way to invest. I think they're fantastic.
And I have a question about that. Mark, is there still enough momentum, let's say, on the latter part of that way of investing to still get decent growth? Because I've heard sometimes some sort of stipulation, it doesn't grow enough. And
Correct.
Towards the end, and I lose out on a lot of maybe a good bull run or something. Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
Well, the longer you have in the market, the more likely you are to make a higher rate of return. So the investor that has 20, 25, 30, 35 years, they're going to participate in more what we call bull runs. And a bull run is when the market goes up. So what happens is, correct, as you get closer to your target date, the portfolio gets more conservative. So you have less likelihood of participating in a higher growth bull run because you have less in the stock market. On the other hand, it's also typically going to be the case that investor doesn't need as much return. And what will become more important for all of these investors at their age of retirement, whether it's 75 or 65 or 60 or 55, is they're going to want more stability. They're willing to trade off growth for stability because they're living off the money.
Sure.
So you do want to reduce the volatility of your portfolio as you get closer to the point in time in which you're taking the money out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, a lot of people who may have retired last year or retiring this year would have never expected to be retiring in a year like this and have 30 plus more, percentage points down the portfolio. It's devastating, So
Yeah, this has been a weird year. Just to clarify, in the first 2 weeks or not the first 2 weeks, but there was a 2-week period in March where I think it was the worst 2-week period in the history of the markets. It was a panic. And people didn't know where the markets were going. It was very disconcerting. Now, if you're 25, 35, 45, 50, and you don't need your money for 12, 15 years, it really shouldn't in any way affect your portfolio. If you have an understanding of this is what the market does, even with how disconcerting the whole thing is, right? Now, after that 2-week period, the market stabilized and they've actually recovered their losses. So, and that's not, people can't be surprised by the markets. One of the biggest market events ever was in October of 1987. The market was down 25% in one day. I remember when that happened. I had just started my career, and look, it had no impact on me, but that was such a staggering loss in one day, and we didn't have the kind of social media that we have now, that people felt their lives that any retirement that they wanted to have was over or was going to change. It was just devastating for people that had accumulated a lot of assets to see that kind of a loss in one day. People remember that day, but by the end of the year, the market had recovered. So the markets can move very quickly and violently.
And staying on the similar topic thread, because I've gotten this question and a couple of people, said, well, ask Mark about this as well if he has some sort of oracle idea.
Yeah.
Firstly, I don't think, like in the same line with what you were saying, like we never know really what the market's going to do, and I think there's a bit of naivety to think that we can predict or control or expect.
Definitely.
I mean, it's just literally impossible. And this year's demonstrating a lot of, uncertainties that always out of our control, for sure. Do you, even though this is an extremely, let's say, in a way impossible to answer, do you do you think the market this year going into next year will pick up or remain stagnant, or we just don't know?
Well, we don't know. However, I have to say it wouldn't surprise me if the market ended up having an up year. And a part of that is just because the market can't surprise me anymore. John Bogle, who's famous for what he did at Vanguard and persevering and persisting with this concept of the index fund, said that he learned very early in his career when he was quite young. I think remember his first job, somebody pulled him aside and just said, "Hey, Bogle, nobody knows nothing." And the point is that, those commentators, it's fine to provide forecasts and ideas about what the markets are going, but nobody really has any idea what's going. If you had told people in the middle of March what the markets would do, and we'd have all the kind of stuff going on in the States here that we do, and have this whole pandemic thing and all that, but the markets would get back to their highs. I mean, come on, who would have said, "Oh yeah, that's I'm going to go long on the market. I'm all in." It would have been a preposterous notion.
Yeah, no, I just don't think we know. Like you said, if you're more than 10 years out from retirement, you shouldn't even be worrying about or thinking about these things. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah,
back up,
I mentioned the idea of expectations when you're a consumer at any age, and how you work with somebody and how important those are. And I would certainly, caution people when you're looking for an advisor. Advisory firms that promote the notion that they can stay ahead of the market, or that have some sense of what's going on, to me, that's a huge red flag. However, there are many consumers that like to believe they exist and to like to hear that. "Oh, you're going to be watching my money and you'll take advantage of that." When we set up our business in the way that we did, PlanVision, it's liberating for us to not have to, I believe, imply that we know what's going on. We don't know any more than anybody else about where the markets are going.
Absolutely. It's just something you can't put a needle on and try to spin anything. What, for our younger viewers, Mark, if let's just say, just to take advantage and get a grip of your life when it comes to finance and investing and taking control of the understanding, not control like pull and yank it, but control in the sense of understanding. So let's say, I'm hypothetically 15 to 25-year-old, right? This is just my personal advice, but you're the expert on this. Yeah. My idea would be the on the forefront of everything is, especially if you're in college, I think debt is the biggest thing to take into mind. So don't get head over heels and hopefully not, jeopardize your situation, especially between that period of your life to get into too much debt. Student loan debt is a huge burn for many people. Mm-hmm. Credit card debt, rent, whatever, just spending without thinking, right? My sort of insight into that, age, let's say, range would be understand what you're spending your money on, what loans you're applying for. Don't get into debt as much as you can. Everyone gets in debt in some way, but watch your debt, open a Roth, ETF through Mark, and that's it. I don't know. A comment I would make about somebody at that point in their life would be, even before the investments come along, and you mentioned Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has done a world of good for people to develop a method and some confidence to get out of debt, and which for many people that have been through that and have found themselves in horrible debt situations, it's a life-changing experience for many people to get out of it. And some, they're just in substantial, and unfortunately, a lot of people have debt where they just don't have the earnings potential. They just can't, they're just going to be in debt for quite some time. So yes, debt can be
can be very damaging to people's long-term financial situation, also to their psyche as well. So assuming that you're going to get in some, I wouldn't, I would make it a priority to try to get out of it. If it means making sacrifices in other areas or living a frugal lifestyle for a period of time, doing whatever you need to do, that would be a first step that would make. And then as a part of that, or maybe in conjunction with that, or these two things go together, understanding where you spend your money, many people call it budgeting or expense tracking, is really valuable. I was guilty of not doing it until my early 30s because I never really felt like I needed to, but then I had some setbacks professionally. But then what I actually did when I was living by myself in my apartment is I took a notepad, a lined piece of paper, and literally wrote down everything that I bought, whether it was something out of the vending machine or a bill. And so I could see them on my refrigerator. That was, and what I became very attuned to by doing this is not spending money. And personally, for me, it was rewarding to do that. Socially, it was a slap in the face because I couldn't do things that I wanted to do at an age where I felt like I should be able to do these things. But that was important for me to go through that process.
Yeah, very important, and sometimes you just live and learn, right? And this is the way it is. Mark, just to finish our conversation today, what would be, I don't know, I guess if a potential client were to go through you, what is the best thing that they may be able to understand to ensure that understanding money and finance and investing is a sure thing with you, and they can not only, let's say, just learn a lot, but they can feel that the way you do things is puts people on the right track?
Well, I would hope that there might be a few takeaways. One is that they would begin to realize that both the investing and even the planning, when I mean like doing a financial plan, are, that's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. One of the books of the last 4 or 5 years is a book called The Index Card. And that was, I can't remember the name of the authors, but one of them's like a University of Chicago professor, another one's a journalist, said, we could write on an index card the things that are important. And it's like, they all fit in an index card. Like, that's it. Now, they turned it into a book to give more explanation. But hopefully they would, our clients can have some sense of the overall simplicity of this. And I have to say, there are people that cannot accept that. So if I say, hey, you just got to put it in a target fund and let it sit there. No, it's got to be more like it can't be this simple. So that is actually hard for some people to do. So I would hope that our clients would feel much more confident about what they're doing due to the simplicity that we try to share with them. Another really important area that I would emphasize too is that, we are about as straightforward with our clients as I think an advisory firm is going to be. We make no misrepresentations about returns, about what our process is, about how we're going to work with them. I think they know what they're getting from our firm. I think that they'll have, our conversations with our clients are actually quite quick. We don't socialize that much with them on our call. I mean, we do. But we want to get down to business and help them move on. So we're very. You can do this without coming across as being impersonal, but we get things done with our clients quickly. So,
excellent. Well, Spirit Lifters will include all Mark's info in the video description below, and if you're listening, you can certainly check out our YouTube channel and get his information. And we hope that this episode really helped to get some clarity about your path for your own personal finance and investing. And I thank you very much again, Mark. And Spirit Lifters, will see you on our next episode.
Thank you.